So, we live in the age of remakes. They are inescapable, and now they are what we expect. With excitement and with dread.
Katara, a strange glowy iceberg just exploded and left behind a mysterious little bald person.
When we don't like them, we remake that remake. For over a decade now, the majority of our media landscape has been made up of recyclables, and it seems no established IP is safe from this treatment. Specifically, the arms race in this arena has been the live-actionification of every animated thing ever, from the entire Disney canon to even the more obscure Saturday morning cartoon. And this includes anime. Netflix's One Piece adaptation debuted in August 2023, to pleasant surprise. The ever-persistent problem filmmakers face when it comes to adapting something from one medium to another is that translation is not one-to-one. There are subtleties that simply don't map. Producers also have to be effective interpreters, lest your final product suffer from adaptation sickness. Though this might seem like an obvious point to make, viewers are going to digest the things happening on screen differently depending on the medium. It's slightly easier for us to accept the internal logic of a fantasy world or even a musical within the realm of animation because it is firmly divorced from our reality. It's a series of stylized drawings, not human people in real, tangible environments. When a character bursts into song or stretches their body like rubber, it's easier for us to suspend our disbelief, because the framing isn't supposed to reflect reality. It can be downright uncanny in the other direction. So when One Piece, a series known for its goofy tone, outrageous characters, and stories that should be unfilmable in live action, was adapted by Netflix, fans held their breath. But the crew behind the production understood that certain elements needed to change to fit the mold and demands of adaptation. And the series was ultimately received not only favorably, but quickly renewed for season 2.
Yeah! Yes! Whoa! Whoa!
Live-action anime adaptations had a pretty dour track record prior to this.
Prepare to eat dirt.
So a flawed but faithful product that largely kept to the spirit of the source material was probably the best thing One Piece fans could hope for, especially after Netflix's previous outing with Cowboy Bebop. But these are not the only anime properties the company has in its library. In retrospect, it's surprising that the highest-grossing media franchise in the world has only had one brush with the live-action machine, and for a relatively unknown spin-off game at that. Detective Pikachu is a movie that exists.
Oh! Ooh, that.
When it premiered, it was labeled the first okay video game movie, which is relatively accurate. It's a fine, if somewhat awkward movie, but it does have its moments.
It's me. It's that stuff that I put up my nose. Not like that.
Legendary Pictures acquired the film rights in 2016, and sometime later Netflix got a hand in the cookie jar in the realm of television. And that brings us to the pressing question: what exactly are they going to do with it? At the time of writing, very little is known about this production. Rumors about it began circulating as far back as 2021, when Variety reported that the series was in the early stages of development. 5 years later, little else has surfaced. Though in October 2025, an insider confirmed that the project was indeed still in the works, stating some official news should be shared sometime in the next year. If it was dormant throughout this time, it's likely One Piece's success has revived Netflix's interest. All that's currently publicly known is that showrunner and screenwriter Joe Henderson is attached as a writer and executive producer, though this information was first disclosed back in 2021, so whether or not Henderson is still on board is unknown. Ultimately, though, this series could very well be about anything. Pokémon already hosts a collection of established stories besides just the anime, though I don't know if I see Netflix taking the route of a direct manga adaptation. The fact is that properties get rebooted because they were successful before, and it's been proven that they can be successful again if they can effectively remind audiences of their source material. Execs are trying to cast the widest net possible. They want to replicate the images that people recognize, hardcore fans or not. Detective Pikachu may have been a litmus test to gauge how well a live-action adaptation would do, without potentially challenging the legions of fans who are heavily emotionally invested in the mainstream arenas of the franchise. And the most well-known mainstream iconography belonging to the series arguably comes not from the games, but the anime. Not every child of the 90s and 2000s played Pokémon, but we almost certainly saw it on television at one point or another. Having run for over 20 years, the Pokémon anime was the introduction to the series for a significant number of fans, and likely for most people in general. Netflix wouldn't necessarily be inclined to move in the direction of rebooting the original series for its sheer iconography, but it's certainly an incentive. Though this was a concept I was initially pretty wary of when the rumors first appeared. Throughout its run, Pokémon remained an episodic series. Serialization wasn't non-existent, but especially back in the early days, narratives were largely contained from episode to episode. The overarching goal of winning all 8 badges and making it to the Pokémon League was the thread that connected them all. Some days the conflict was overcoming a strong trainer, and sometimes it was Ash being straight up crushed by a chandelier and dying.
No way! I don't want to be a ghost yet!
There aren't really hard-set character arcs or a close attention to narrative progression. The anime was arguably a vessel to promote the franchise first and a story second. This is where we come to the hurdles of adaptation. Though I think Pokémon would have an easier time than One Piece moving into the realm of live action, unlike it, or even Cowboy Bebop, this needs some structure. And as is inevitable with this process, change. Simply touching a nostalgic intellectual property is already crossing a line for some people. But adaptation requires at least a little surgery, and absolute faithfulness does not a good adaptation make. Like I mentioned before, this concept itself made me skeptical at first. Having been raised on the series and having seen others I revered butchered in increasingly baffling ways by the remake machine,
then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
The mere idea was unappealing, to say the least. But even if Netflix doesn't adapt the anime this time around, that day may inevitably come sooner or later. With the waterfall of remakes and their incredible financial returns, executives simply may not be able to help themselves. So if we are given a live-action reimagining of the original Pokémon anime, what's the best possible outcome? Obviously, the answer is going to be different for different people. Plenty certainly subscribe to the grim, dark interpretation that we all wanted of everything when we were 13.
Fuck Batman.
But in keeping with the spirit of the original show, what's a faithful way a live-action Pokémon could be explored? How do you keep intact the world and characters while making it all fresh? Pokémon, not just the anime, has always been about exploration. It has consistently been interested in the idea of the first steps into a wider world. The series creator, Satoshi Tajiri, has explained his original concept sprouted from his childhood adventures of exploring the forest around his home in Mashida, Tokyo, where he spent all of his time searching for and collecting bugs. The beginning of each and every main series game sees you leaving your small town behind to begin your journey. There's ongoing themes, imagery, and narratives all at least tangentially related to leaving home and coming of age. And that, besides of course friendship and perseverance, Pokémon's other longtime themes, should be at the crux of this reimagining. Movies like Stand By Me, The Monster Squad, E.T., The Sandlot, The Goonies, even more contemporary examples like Stranger Things, which is itself referential to some past examples, like Pokémon, pay some lip service to this idea, and feature a cast of kids on one kind of adventure or another. And that's the thing about kids, they are the ultimate underdogs. These were the kinds of properties that came to mind with what I'd hope a Pokémon story might look like, especially considering Ash's status as that type of character. The music video for the song Acacia, a love letter to the series and its legacy, even opens with a visual reference to Stand By Me, which seems to reinforce that this kind of story and the coming-of-age theme is endemic to the franchise. There is a timelessness to these stories of childhood misadventure, a relatability to being out of your comfort zone, trying to prove you're just as tough as the other kids on the playground.
You play ball like a girl!
And emphasizing that angle, that experience, would probably help ground a Pokémon story in a live-action setting, as opposed to the sort of awkward game tutorial translated to film we got in Detective Pikachu.
Throw it!
Throw the ball.
Like a man!
Again, animation is arguably the optimum medium for Pokémon, but this is one avenue in which it can use the medium to its advantage. The presence of a live performance by a real child that we can connect to on another level. Kids being challenged by the things that scare them, kids challenging each other. This, at least to me, lends itself as an example to follow for the framework an adaptation of the show would already inherit from its source material. Framing a Pokémon adaptation around the idea of starting to grow up just feels right. and it gives the story and potential character arcs a clear direction. In the original series, Ash is set up immediately as the kid everyone expects to finish last. He oversleeps the morning he's supposed to start his journey, his childhood friend and rival is better at everything than he is, even Misty and Brock give him a hard time. He's pugnacious, brash, and impatient to boot, but his redeeming quality is a sincerity towards Pokémon that most of the other characters simply don't possess. Before being a trainer, Ash's priority is to be their friend. This is what wins Pikachu over after their rocky start, and it's what sets him apart. He doesn't have that inherent skill that Gary does, but in its place is a relentless drive to improve, to work hard, and to do so with his Pokémon. Have his character arc center on not only his developing maturity, but his struggling belief in himself. Have him conflate his self-worth with his ability to win battles. Make him question what he's really on a journey for. Is he doing it to prove he's more than what other people see him as, or did he lose sight of his childhood dream to simply go out into the world and meet Pokémon? He can have 1 or 2 run-ins with Gary that place a seed of doubt in his mind he has to grapple with. And this can culminate in him ultimately beating his rival not necessarily out of superior skill, but a gained understanding of how to bring out the best in his Pokémon. Give Misty the opportunity to find her own wants divorced from her sisters. Brock some focus to recapture the childhood he never had raising his siblings, while at the same time adopting the role of an older brother for Ash and Misty because he is genuinely fulfilled by it.
It's not too late to back out.
Why should I back out when I'm gonna win? Just stick around and watch me.
I'll stick around to see your face when you get creamed.
If you think we're gonna get creamed, you're gonna be disappointed!
Are we ever gonna go inside?
Make the characters bicker, make them see their own faults in each other, make them see their strengths. You could even give Team Rocket their own subplot. Make Giovanni a rising threat, have them question if they're on the right side, before ultimately joining Ash & Co. because they realize they're good deep down. The ingredients all exist already, it's only a matter of putting them together. Ironically, Ash was never really given the chance to grow up in the original series, but an adaptation gives him the perfect opportunity to do so. And that's the beauty of adaptation. It can unearth different aspects of the source material that otherwise remain buried. This is only one fan's wish list for a vague gist of what a potential remake could look like, but as someone who's generally not enthusiastic about these endless reimaginings, I see a ray of hope. I'm not familiar with Joe Henderson's past projects, and on the surface they're not exactly adjacent to Pokémon, but perhaps a writer coming from a different background is actually a healthy thing. At present, we probably won't find out more for at least another year, but I just wanted to share what I'd be interested in seeing, because I believe there's always room for good. As long as they don't turn Ash & Co. into the kids from Riverdale, I should be fine.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in, and I don't want to fit in. Have you ever seen me without this stupid hat on? That's weird.
What are your hopes for this upcoming Netflix project? It could very well go in a completely different direction or a wholly original one. Leave your theories in the comments and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. To support the channel for similar content, you can also join as a member, or subscribe to the Patreon for exclusive perks. Thanks as always to my supporters, and thanks as always for watching.